Hi. Okay, so I'm getting told it's a workshop-style presentation. That's good to know. There are a few exercises around this. So I've changed the title of the talk just to make it simpler because it's quite a long. I noticed the title there, the importance of right leadership and capability among your team to help drive improvement projects. It's quite a mouthful. So really what we're talking about in this session is just how does leadership affect business excellence? I think leadership is probably one of the most talked about subjects and one of the most misunderstood subjects. So today I'm just going to introduce you to an evidence-based model. In other words, what does the research show that leadership actually is? In terms of, I'm sure we've all been subjected to the 1,000 one-liners, leadership is this, leadership is that. And there's so many experts in the field that would agree and disagree, and it's quite confusing. So we're going to look at what the research shows. How's excellence in any field achieved? That's going to be a little exercise for you guys to do. The great training fast, so why organizations waste millions of dollars in world-class training. And that will be really linked to how excellence is achieved. And I'm sure there's plenty of experts on excellence in this room. And it'd be interesting to hear you and once we do the exercise on excellence itself. And then what really makes a leader? So is there an evidence-based approach? And we may or may not get to the myth of the strengths-based approach. I see I'm starting 15 minutes late or nearly 15 minutes late. My commitment to you is we do not end later than 3:15, even if we cut the presentation short, because I know what it's like for me sitting in your shoes after lunch, getting tired, struggling to concentrate, and someone sort of, if I keep going till 3:30 into your tea break, all I'm going to serve to do is annoy you. So let's get on with it. So how important is leadership? Well, in 2005, a study conducted on 94 large companies whose average income then, probably not now, was $17.4 billion by a researcher and author, Richard Roy. It's quite an interesting surname he's got there, R-O-I. Discovered that companies applying, now these are the five, I'll introduce you to these practices a little bit later, but they're 5 exemplary leadership practices, and they're measured by a 360 instrument. I'm presuming most people here will know what a 360 is, probably have been in 360s or done 360s for others themselves, quite scary instruments. And what they discovered is that the companies that did well on the 360, right, which is a very subjective measurement, it's about behavior, much more than dollars and cents and hard figures. What they discovered is that the companies that did well, their leaders did well, as a senior management to middle management, achieved a stock price growth of 204% in 2 years and a net income growth of 841%. And then companies ranked as having weak leadership practices achieved stock price growth of 76% and a net income decrease of 49%. So if you look at the differential, you've got over a 10-year period, 890% difference in profitability that can be predicted to some degree by a 360 on leadership behavior. And that's not, there's many, many research projects that have been done around leadership. And it's kind of, well, it's not really a debate anymore whether leadership impacts organizations and organizational success. Another study, another very interesting study, which I only came across about 3 or 4 months ago, was by 2 authors in the US, Zenger and Folkman. And what they found was that leadership, as measured again by 360, leaders who score in the top 10%, so if you rank yourself against other leaders around the world or in your organization, leaders that scored in the top 10% earned up to 6 times more profit for their business than average or good leaders in the same business. So they did large-scale research in similar businesses, which is a real challenge in the leadership development field because a lot of people rank pretty okay in their 360s. They do pretty well. They might get 7 out of 10 on an average, let's say. And what their research shows is that if you're not in the extraordinary leader category, you're actually leaving a tremendous amount of money on the table if you're in a profit business, a non-for-profit business, a lot of effectiveness. Projects are not getting good results, etc., etc. So this is something else I recently came across in October 2008. I was chatting to one of our clients who shall remain unnamed, but it's a major Australian bank, one of the top 4. And I asked them, why do people leave you? And they said, well, one of the top 3 reasons, it varies. Sometimes it's leadership, but typically in the top 3 all the time is leadership. Is poor leadership. They said it's poor leadership. Well, what about poor leadership? Well, more specifically, and this is the evidence they gave me, leaders who lack honesty, leaders who lead politically rather than through a clearly established set of values, leaders who do not help their staff feel like they belong, leaders who micromanage and stifle people's growth and development, and leaders who fail to enable their team members with personal power and opportunity. Their estimated cost of losing 40 employees is $2.5 million. So very, very expensive. So let's go straight on to an exercise. So, well, hold on a sec before I go. What I'm trying to establish here, and hopefully I have somewhat established it, is that there's a good case for leadership excellence. And organizational excellence won't happen without leadership excellence. And I think I just overheard right at the end of the last presentation that much of this is common sense, that compliance is actually about common sense. And so is leadership. So, I mean, how difficult is it to be honest, for example? But it's my experience working with executive teams that honesty is probably the least practiced virtue in the average executive team. And certainly onwards down. I still remember that term you introduced me to, Rob. Actually, I've used that term many, many times. Is it okay to say that? Yeah, the mid-management. I was working with Rob a while back, and he introduced me to that term, Bahika. And I never understood. I thought it was I sort of nodded knowingly, like it was some technical term I should know, and that this is how middle management most commonly felt about senior management decisions. And Bahika stood for bend over, here it comes again. So, and again, it's this lack of transparency and this lack of willingness to take feedback from leaders. Again, common sense. So, if leadership excellence is so important for our businesses, well then let's just take a look at how excellence in the first place is achieved. So at your tables, in groups, this is the training part of this little section, get you talking. At your tables, like if you're three of you, if you're a bigger table to split into half, would you just discuss these things? So name one thing you've personally excelled at. So it could be, yesterday I was talking to someone who said they're excellent at massage. So it doesn't really matter what it is. So what could be a sport, a musical instrument, it could be cooking, it could be managing people, delivering projects, something. Everybody's excellent at something. It could be even ice skating, who knows. And then once you've got that, and you can just do one or two of you, I'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes to do this exercise and see how you're going. Then name these, sort of answer these questions. So when you started, were you excellent at whatever it is that you are excellent now at? What challenges and failures did you encounter on your way to excellence? So did you go on a one-day course on cooking, and suddenly you were a master chef? Is that how it worked? What actually happened for you to get to excellence? What support and feedback did you get on your way to excellence? So did you go on the one-day course on cooking, you started cooking, no one ever looked at you again in the way you cooked or helped you or gave you any feedback. In fact, the people that you fed meals to never even gave you feedback either on your cooking, and magically you became excellent at it. Did this happen or not? What actually happened in your case? And then, what did it take to achieve excellence? Okay? Oh, and last question, does excellence last if you stop practicing? So 5 to 10 minutes, have a chat in your groups, and then we'll come back to it and carry on. So, to try and deal with this interactively with such a big room, I'm going to assume that the answer to the first question for everybody in the room was, no, you were not excellent when you started. But if anybody feels differently about that, I'd love to hear from you. So would it be safe to assume that the answer is no? And when we're not excellent, it's usually difficult and challenging and painful to do something. But we carry on doing it because typically one of two things. We either deeply, deeply care about it and its meaning, or we love it, and we're willing to tolerate the pain associated with it. A good example of this is parenting. You need to tolerate a lot of pain. No, it doesn't explain golf. It's that one good shot, isn't it, at golf? So, but now I'd like to hear from a couple of people, please, brave souls, who are willing to share with us what challenges and failures did you encounter on your way to excellence. Challenges around public speaking, anybody? We got someone here, thank you.